Welcome back to Let's Talk Tuesday. This is the podcast where we have real conversations about learning, leadership, and what it truly takes to help people and organizations grow. Each week, we bring together different perspectives, experiences, and voices to explore what learning development really means, why it matters, and how we can do it better. Today, we have a very special guest, Mickey Spain from Stanhope, New Jersey, who has over 20 years of experience in client success, program implementation, and training and development. Welcome, Mickey.
Hi, Amanda. How are you today?
Good. I'm excited to talk with you. Tell us a little bit about your background and what your focus is today.
Um, over 20 years dealing with client success everywhere from the retail industry, but also predominantly in the franchising industry as well. Predominantly the real estate was my background, real estate franchising, where I was responsible for business consulting with broker owner clients. Training agents on brand related technologies as well as working for a real estate technology provider and training on our flagship product there, which was a CMA product.
Very cool. One of my favorite questions to ask people across the board, across industry, because it means so many different things, even within our own industry. What does learning and development mean to you?
uh, Being able to translate or explain the core values of success within that industry and translate it into the language that the recipient's going to understand and be able to apply to their daily business.
Yeah, absolutely. Why is learning and development so important, especially in today's world?
Because everything changes so quickly.
It's true. The only constant is change. What do you wish companies knew or did differently when it comes to learning and development?
uh, I've found over my 20 years really understanding the client that they're working with. Um, there's been several examples that I've seen throughout my career where content or training programs have been created by developers to impress their bosses, where it doesn't translate down to the human level of the actual learner trying to acquire the skills needed. So, in some cases, I've seen where training programs are way too complex for the person to understand, and it needs to be broken down into digestible chunks so that the learner can understand it. But there's also the case as well where in learning and development, everybody is so feature focused versus what I would call impactable features. What are the nuts and bolts of what they're learning that are going to help them drive their business or get better at what they're doing?
Yeah, I've definitely seen and lived both extremes. So I have a client that constantly reminds, especially when XR VR was kind of newer to the scene, you know, why are we creating these like huge bells and whistles and it takes like a year to develop this program? And yeah, it looks really cool and it's like gamified and it's like you're in a video game and you're doing and you're
Yeah.
learning and you're putting out fires and it's really fun and engaging, but does the content warrant something of that level? And when it comes to safety and hazard, absolutely, it's an amazing tool that saves lives, that you can practice operating on a human without actually doing it. You can practice flying a plane, you can practice putting out a fire or doing any of these like task-based high risk things. But of course, you try to create the environment as best you can, but in the real life, it's going to be different, obviously. And then I have the opposite where people are like, oh, I have a training for that. And I look at it and it's a video of someone talking. I'm like, that is not training. That is information overload. That is not because real training and real learning comes from behavior change, right? So you didn't You only learn something if you actually change as a result of it. So obviously we know there's different levels in training and development, like whether you need to know it or do it, apply it, teach it, etc. But that being said, there's definitely these two extremes, right? Where people want all the bells and all the whistles and it's fun and it's great, but did it actually hit the mark? And on the other extreme, sure, I have a training for that. Here, read this document. I'm like, that's not training. One of the things I love to leave the audience with, because we're an audience of doers, is do you have one actual tip or takeaway that someone could apply today in their world to either from a learning perspective, a leadership perspective? What's one actionable tip or takeaway that you have for us today?
Always lead by example.
Oh, that's a good one. Tell me more.
I no matter what job I've ever been in, or what audience I've ever been in front of, I never ask them to do something that I'm not willing to do myself.
Yeah, absolutely. The best leaders are always the ones that are ready and able to roll up their sleeves and get in the trenches with their people and get through it together. I think that, I talk a lot about servant leadership and the sense of like how can we best serve our people as leaders? And one of the best things we can do is be the example that they need to see. And
Mhm.
it applies in parenthood too, right? So it's one of those things people always say is do as I say, not as I do. It's not going to work. It's not going to work.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Although sometimes the way my kids behave, it concerns me as to what I taught them. But
Oh, well, this has been great. We've covered a lot of ground. Thank you so much for being on today. And I love talking, training, learning, and client success with you.
yeah, thank you, Amanda. I appreciate it.
And with that, we'll begin to wrap up. So I hope this discussion gave our audience a few new perspectives, sparked some ideas, and left you with at least one takeaway you can put into action immediately. If you've enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe and join us every Tuesday as we continue exploring learning, leadership, and what it takes to help people and organizations grow. And if today's conversation resonated with you, or if you'd like to join me for a future episode, I'd love to hear from you. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and let's talk again on Tuesday. Thanks, everyone.